There was a time when your mind belonged to you. You may not remember it clearly, because it feels like a different life now. Like a dream you can almost touch, but not fully hold. A time when you could sit down, start something, finish it, and feel present inside your own thoughts. A time when your attention felt like a natural extension of your being, instead of a battle you keep losing. But somewhere along the way, your mind stopped being a quiet room and became a marketplace. And without noticing, you went from being a person with attention to a product whose attention is being sold. Maybe you've felt it, the strange anxiety that rises when nothing is stimulating you, the discomfort of silence, the twitch in your brain that asks for a screen the moment life slows down. You reach for your phone without thinking, open apps you don't even care about, scroll without purpose, absorb information without meaning, and afterward, you feel guilty, not because you chose it, but because you didn't. Something inside you knows you're not choosing anymore. You're reacting. You keep telling yourself you have a discipline problem, a motivation issue, a lack of willpower, but deep down you sense something darker, that your inability to focus isn't a personal failure. It's a consequence, a designed outcome, an architecture built around your psychology, shaped by people who understand your mind better than you do. Your attention wasn't stolen. It was bought. Every swipe, every click, every notification, each one engineered to keep you predictable, reactive, available, not present, not intentional, just available. And the saddest part is that it didn't happen all at once. It happened slowly, gently, disguised as convenience. A notification here, an algorithm there, a promise of connection, a hit of dopamine dressed as entertainment, and while you were distracted, the most valuable thing you possess slipped out of your hands, your ability to direct your own mind. Because focus isn't just a skill, it's a form of ownership. Ownership over your time, your choices, your life. And when you lose the ability to focus, you lose the ability to guide your own existence. You live on autopilot, jumping from stimulation to stimulation, unable to stay with anything long enough to feel depth, meaning, or direction. Maybe you've noticed how hard it is now to read a page without your thoughts drifting, how impossible it feels to watch a movie without grabbing your phone, how rare it is to finish a task without interruption, how quickly boredom terrifies you, how silence makes you restless, how your mind feels fragmented, scattered in pieces across dozens of digital rooms you don't remember walking into. But this isn't your natural state. It's learned behavior, conditioned behavior, reinforced behavior, because the truth is uncomfortable. There are entire industries built on the hope that you never regain control of your attention. Industries that profit when you scroll. Companies whose revenue depends on your distraction. Systems designed to make focus feel impossible, so consumption feels inevitable. And yet, here you are, blaming yourself for not being able to concentrate, calling yourself lazy, calling yourself weak, wondering why your mind feels tired after doing nothing, wondering why you are overwhelmed by things that used to feel simple, wondering why the smallest tasks feel like climbing a mountain. But what if the problem isn't your mind? What if the problem is the world your mind is forced to survive in? A world that constantly demands you stay available, but never allows you to be present. A world that rewards distraction and punishes stillness. A world that replaces your curiosity with content, your attention with addiction, your silence with noise. A world where everything is loud except you. And maybe that's the real question you've been avoiding. When was the last time you heard your own thoughts without interruption? Not the recycled thoughts shaped by algorithms. Not the anxieties triggered by comparison. Not the desires implanted by ads you don't remember seeing. But your own thoughts. The ones that rise when the world becomes quiet. If you don't remember, it's not your fault. Because you were never taught to protect your attention. You were taught to trade it. And slowly, piece by piece, you did. You traded your focus for entertainment, your presence for stimulation, your curiosity for algorithms, your peace for noise, not because you chose to, but because the world gave you no alternative that didn't cost you connection, belonging, or relevance. That's why you can't focus. Not because you don't care, but because you were trained to forget how. And this is where everything begins to unravel, not in a dramatic moment of realization, but in the quiet recognition that the world has shaped your mind in ways you didn't take consent to. But here's the part you haven't realized yet. If your attention can be shaped, it can be reclaimed. Not instantly, not easily, not without discomfort, but it can be reclaimed quietly, slowly, deliberately. And that is where part 2 begins. And once you realize how much of your attention has been shaped, something begins to shift inside you. Something quiet but undeniable, a kind of grief. Not loud, not dramatic, but the soft grief of noticing how much of your own life you can't remember. The conversations you weren't fully in, the books you meant to finish, the dreams you postponed, the goals you abandoned not because they were impossible, but because your mind became too fragmented to hold them. The version of yourself you keep waiting to become, the one who focuses, creates, follows through, but who feels further away each year. It's painful to admit, but you lost more than attention. You lost depth, presence, curiosity. The ability to sit with something long enough for it to become meaningful. The ability to feel something long enough for it to transform you. You became overstimulated and undernourished at the same time. And nobody warned you that this is what happens when your mind is constantly pulled in 100 directions. When your brain learns to expect stimulation instead of seeking understanding. When boredom becomes unbearable, when silence becomes threatening. When the inner world becomes uninhabitable unless there's noise filling it. But the world didn't do this to you by accident. It did it because a mind that can't focus is a mind that consumes. A mind that stays shallow feeds an economy built on endless scrolling. A mind that avoids boredom becomes dependent on stimulation. A mind that fears silence becomes addicted to noise. A mind without direction is easily guided. You think you're choosing what you watch, what you read, what you pay attention to. But how do you choose anything when your ability to choose has been weakened? You don't choose, you drift. From video to video, from thought to thought, from desire to desire, from distraction to distraction, until the days blend into each other and the world feels flat, distant, dull, like you're living life with the brightness turned down. And maybe that's why you feel tired even when you haven't done anything. It's not physical exhaustion, it's cognitive exhaustion. The exhaustion of a mind that's constantly switching, jumping, reacting, trying to make sense of signals it never asked for. A brain built for depth, forced to operate like a machine made for speed. No wonder you feel disconnected from yourself. No wonder your emotions feel muted. No wonder everything feels overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time. But here's the truth you've avoided for years. Your brain wasn't built for this. It was built for presence, for slowness, for meaning, for stillness. And that's why silence hurts so much now. Because silence is where your real self waits. And you haven't belonged to yourself in a long time. You keep telling yourself you'll fix it someday, that you'll get disciplined, that you'll take a break from social media, that you'll start reading again, that you'll slow down, that you'll change. But deep down you know the truth. It's not that you can't focus, it's that you're afraid of what you'll find when you do. Because focus forces you to face yourself, not the curated self, not the distracted self, not the digital self, but the quiet self you keep avoiding. The one with fears you haven't processed, with dreams you've neglected, with pain you haven't confronted, with emptiness you haven't examined. The world taught you to numb your mind instead of knowing it, to stimulate your brain instead of understanding it, to escape your thoughts instead of exploring them. And that's why taking your attention back feels like withdrawal, not from technology, but from avoidance. Because buried beneath all the noise, there is a version of you you've forgotten how to hear. A version of you who once had ideas, goals, focus, imagination, depth, presence, wonder, and a relationship with life that wasn't fragmented. That version is still there, but trapped under layers of noise, emotional, mental, digital noise. And reclaiming your attention isn't about fighting technology. It's about remembering how to inhabit your own mind again. You don't need a detox. You need a return to slowness, to boredom, to silence, to intentionality, to the ability to stay with one thing long enough for it to matter, to the ability to hear your own thoughts without drowning in them, to the ability to look at your life with clarity instead of distraction, because your focus was never broken. It was hijacked, and the world profits from hoping you never take it back. But here's the part they can't control. The moment you become aware of how your attention is being used, you begin to reclaim it. Not instantly, not perfectly, but inevitably. Because something in you knows that the life you're reliving now, ISNT, the life you're meant for, something in you misses yourself. Something in you aches for presence. Real presence. The kind that doesn't require stimulation to feel alive. And maybe this is where your story begins to change. Not in a dramatic reset, not in a sudden breakthrough, but in a subtle shift in awareness. The realization that your attention is your life. And every time you give it away mindlessly, you give away a piece of yourself. But every time you reclaim a moment of presence, a moment of quiet, a moment of depth, a moment of intention, you begin to return home to your own mind. And maybe, after everything you've lost, that return is exactly what you've been searching for.